Hi there, a very good noon and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be a part of the community. We keep on bringing a lot of high quality sessions for you. And if you also turn on the notifications, you'd be able to ensure that you do not miss out on any one of these sessions. So, you know that right before every major exam, we take you through a lot of sessions that cover different facets. In fact, I remember taking a XAT strategy session quite a long while ago. I'd say a good maybe 30-40 days ago. But then we were too wrapped up with the cat. So here it is, starting the new series where I'll take you through 100 most expected questions in the XAT exam so that when you face the exam, you don't feel that you are not prepared. You don't feel that you're meeting questions that are new and unpredictable for you. Uh, my name is Vikrant. I am your personal coach for all things related to English and communication skills. I'd also started a similar series for Snap. For that matter, I've also started a 500 most expected questions for the CAT series for the 24 aspirants already. So in case you know anybody who is preparing for 24, do let them know so that they can also benefit from that particular series. So here you go. Something for your mind first. Mhm. Even my clicker. I think I'm facing a lot of technical issues for the last day or two. All right. Without hustle, talent will carry you only so far. Then Gary put only here, but then the English faculty in me thought that it is a misplaced modifier and it should go here. But then, at the end of the day, we all do need to put in a lot of effort. Wasted talent, in fact, is almost a proverb. So keep hustling until these exams are over. Hi, Sonali. Good to see you again. Sonali should actually get an award for being probably the most regular individual in these sessions, right? Oh, feeling a little chilly. So in case you are around here in Delhi NCR, you can actually collect that personally. Otherwise, reach out to me. And I think I should do something for you. Okay, so first up, let me tell you what all is new about the XAT. So you've gone through CAT. Some of you have already gone through Snap or are about to go through Snap. And Snap is a markedly different exam with just 60 minutes, 60 questions. XAT now will take you to the other extreme where you will actually be there for 175 plus 30 minutes. So it's a 3 hour, 10-minute exam divided across two parts. Part one, the percentile that you get in part one is what determines whether you get shortlisted for the next stage or not. Okay, and then what's exactly new? So if I sum it up all, then obviously the duration is 1 bit, right? Then apart from that, there is no sectional time limit, and therefore question selection becomes very important. A higher level of self-awareness where you know what you are good at and what you are not that good at, which questions take you less time, which questions take you more time. All of that would come into picture. Then your strategy needs to change, so you follow a round-based approach. So at the end of the day, unless you have gone through all the questions, you'll never be able to figure out which questions are easy and which are difficult, and thus you need to customize your approach for that scenario. Then just a minor change is that instead of 4 options, you get 5 options. Personally, I don't think it is much. Just takes a little longer, but beyond that, I'd say it's still more or less the same. Then the difficulty level. Now, the difficulty level of the XAT exam could at times be higher than the CAT. You definitely find it tougher than the SNAP. You are also likely to find you tougher than the NMAT and maybe even the CAT. Although the kind of exam that we saw this year in the CAT, uh, I'd say it is going to be more or less at par or maybe just a shade more difficult. But then if we should mentally be prepared for that higher difficulty level. And then, of course, there is an entire section on decision making, something that no other exam tests you on. So this is going to be really valuable, really important for you. Then the marking scheme. +1 minus 0.25. So 1/4 marks are deducted. There are no negative marks in GK though, and there is a penalty for leaving questions. You can leave 8 questions of part 1 without incurring any penalty, but every question that you leave unattempted thereafter, they deduct zero point 0.1 from your overall kitty. So that at times make people over attempt. Personally, I ignore this bit. I ignore this bit. Because if I get it wrong, I stand to lose minus 0.25. So it all basically averages out. So you should not really allow it to play much with you. And Soumya says, sir, why your videos got deleted? Which videos got deleted, Soumya? Which videos? 175. No, this is not a recorded session. यार ये तो live है. मैं 12 बजे live आता तो हूँ हफ्ते में कई दिन 3 दिन तो आता ही हूँ I think. हाँ, इनफैक्ट 3 से ज्यादा बार ही आता हूँ. 12 बजे ना आऊँ, अलग टाइम पे आऊँ. That's a different story. In fact, look at the last few days and probably find me there every day. Then specifically talking about the verbal ability and logical reasoning section. They call it verbal ability and logical reasoning. There is no sectional time limit. You get 26 questions. And here is the breakup of the different questions that we got in XAT 22. So I'll just highlight the new things for you once again. They give us a poem. They give us grammar, and you typically see fill in the blank questions. So in XAT 22, we had 2 fill in the blank questions. One question had a sentence with 3 blanks, another one gave us 4 blanks, and then there are a lot of direct critical reasoning questions. Brinda, it is not about simultaneous. It is about overall. In part 1, if you leave 8 questions, so let us say that you left, let's say 20 questions are unattempted. So for 8 of these, there is going to be no deduction, but for the remaining 12, they are going to shave 0.1 for each one of these questions. So that's how it is going to happen. And then that is XAT 22. If I talk about XAT 23, and because this exam happens in the month of January, the year at times looks a little odd. Like XAT 23 ho gaya, XAT 23 bhi hua kahan. Actually, this exam takes place in January, and therefore the year gets changed. More or less the same things. The only addition was there was a para completion question also available. Okay. Anything else? Soumya says, is this my first session? Nah, this is the first session of the series called 100 Most Expected Questions in XAT. Radha Vinod, it's just a hoax. I mean, it's not a hoax, it is a reality, but yeah, I think personally I ignore that. Okay? Personally, I ignore that. In some of those cases, let's say if I've managed to rule out 3 answer choices, I'm left with 2, and my gut goes with one of them, but I'm not 100% certain. In those questions, I may attempt because of that reason, but otherwise, I just ignore it. Okay, so here is a bit of preparation strategy. XAT RC, lot like CAT RC passages, except smaller passages, 3 questions each, 5 answer choices, and you also get poem comprehension. So make sure that you start reading a poem every day. Pay special attention to figures of speech and allusions. Okay, indirect references. Poems are not direct. They can be direct, but then poems can so very frequently refer to something indirectly instead of talking about it directly. So you need to become better at picking up those allusions, those indirect references. Soumya, I think you and I need to carry this conversation forward later, huh? Now that you've brought in Inception. Okay, then when it comes to XAT grammar, they mostly ask you error identification questions. They give you some sentences and they ask you to either pick up incorrect sentences or pick up correct sentences. The areas that are high frequency areas in XAT are prepositions, tense, subject verb agreement, articles, idiomatic expressions, and phrasal verbs. I think so far, if you'd look at it, you'd realize that it is more or less the same list that we had for uh, Snap as well. But there is one additional area that I would like to bring in, and that is punctuation. So far, if you've ignored punctuations, then this is one chapter that I do want you to go ahead and master. Do go ahead and go through that. And do revise grammar. Do make sure that you practice a lot of mixed bag questions. Okay, Vrinda, I think you can just Google, yeah, go online, and there are plenty of poems that are available. Plenty of archives where you find poetry. So just spend, you know, prior to the cat, I asked you to read for 25 minutes every day. So similarly, just read poetry for around 25 minutes every day. And then when it comes to vocabulary, sorry, CR, it's your typical paragraph-based critical reasoning. So, unlike Snap, where you get those statement assumption questions, one statement, two assumptions, one statement, two conclusions. That is not the kind of critical reasoning that XAT gives you. XAT would typically give you a paragraph based CR where you have a paragraph and then there's a question stem that asks you to do something, and the question stem is followed by options. The question types that they mostly ask are inferences, assumptions, strengthening, weakening, and I forgot to write this here, but let me write this. Identify the logical flaw. So these are the five that you need to go ahead and become really good at. And my suggestion will be that you basically go ahead and revise your critical reasoning sessions. Additionally, keep on practicing critical reasoning questions so that you are able to figure out problems, if any. Okay, and finally taking you over to vocabulary. So we just get a fill in the blank question, one or two with 3 to 4 blanks, and fill in the blank questions are actually a combination of a lot of different things. So yes, vocabulary matters. You need to be aware of the meanings of the words that are given to you, especially what we call confusable. So there are times when you have these two words which are alike or similar in some way, and you're not able to be very sure of which word has which meaning, right? So those kind of things. Then of course, fill in the blank questions also demand that you are able to understand the sentence, use your logic, and at times even grammar to choose your answer choices. So in case you face issues in these question types, let me know and I can take you through some fill in the blank questions. If you are already part of my batches at BYJU'S Exam Prep, then you've already gone through a dedicated session on this. But then I think moving forward, I would want to emphasize those varieties, those question types that you tell me you need more inputs on. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice some questions now. And straight off the bat, let us start with a poem. Okay, so some of you keep on asking me, sir, poem क्या कहाँ से पढ़े कैसे पढ़े? अभी पहले साथ में पढ़ ही लेते हैं यार. So here is a poem on your page. Thereafter, I'll take you through some questions that are based on this particular poem. But then read it. Read it twice. Once you've done reading it twice, let me know, and I want you to read it aloud. Unlike a passage where I don't want you to vocalize, when it comes to a poem, it's a good idea to read it aloud. Go ahead, and then once you've done this, we'll move forward from it. Blessed is blessed. Blessings. That blessed. So you feel that, this life is amazing. For your sake, such miles have I traversed. All those others who came close and moved off in the darkness, I do not know if they exist or not. Done? Okay, so here is your question number 1. You can use the seeker to refer to the poem. Go ahead, share your answer, and then we'll see. Okay, so if you've read the poem, what do you think? What is the poem about? What is the core message that it offered? Hmm. So, in this particular poem, we are told about this journey of meeting someone that meeting our true love. Why even someone? So this basically goes ahead and talks about this journey where we find our true love. Look at the last part. Let's read it together. Okay. So the night is black and the forest has no end. No doubt. I think if you just look at this line, a million people thread it in a million ways. You can so far think of it as the journey of life. We have trysts to keep in the darkness, but this is where things changing. But where or with whom of that we are unaware. So you are supposed to meet people, but we have this faith that a lifetime's bliss will appear any minute with a smile upon its lips. So, lifetime of bliss is we have this faith that we'll find our true love. And in that process, you get a lot of hints, indications, go through a lot of other things, scents, touches, sounds, snatches of songs, brush us, pass us, give us delightful shocks. Then, peradventure, there is a flash of lightning. Whomever I see that instant, I fall in love with. I call that person and cry, this life is blessed, for your sake such miles have I traversed. All those others who came close and moved off in the darkness, I do not know if they exist or not. So it's actually about the process of how we go and find our true love. And therefore, in the context, the night is black and the forest has no end, it is not the journey of life, it is the path through which you discover your love. And that is why it will be C and not A. That is why this part in the context of the poem becomes very important. Moreover, if you look at A, it just talks about very long. But then look at what has no end. Forest. Even if you were to interpret, forest would usually represent what? Remember allusions, indirect references. Forest would typically refer to what? Challenge, difficulties, hardships. So it is not, and moreover, it's the hardships, the challenges that seem unending, not the life itself that seems unending. Uh, the allusion for life here would probably be night, and all you say is night is black. So normally we associate black with sadness, darkness, challenges, but in the context of this passage, it talks about uncertainties. It talks about you're not sure what or whom you are looking for. And that is what makes C a better answer choice. Okay, here is the next one. What does the lightning represent in the poem? Here are the answers, people. Vrinda, we will talk about it. Let's just go ahead and become familiar once. Let's start going through mocks, etc. And then you can take a call. So 26 questions. How much time do you think it would require? How much time do you have? How many sections do you have? Think along those lines first. Okay, so lightning. What does the term lightning here represent? So suddenly there is a lightning, and the first person that you see is the person that you fall in love with it. So it is that moment where you go on to discover your true love. The problem with C is this part is right. The instant where one finds the person who is one's true love, that would have been fine. But then the problem with this is this word looking for, this expression. You notice we don't even know whom. Look at this, look at this. The poem very clearly says with whom of that we are unaware. We are not looking for a person. That person happens for adventure. So it's through that, during that journey, by chance, by luck, you bump into that person, right? And that is why uh, this looking for helps us rule out option C. A is fine. Otherwise, everything else in C was really fine. So A and C were quite close. Okay, and here's a third question, which I think you should find easy if you are going through your figure of speech. Absolutely spot on, guys. It is indeed B. Oxymoron is where we use two contradictory words for impact, right? So shock and delight. So delightful shocks, definitely an oxymoron. What is metonymy? Let's quickly revise our figures of speech. What is metonymy? Metonymy is when we use a related word to refer to something. Okay, for example, uh, when we say the bench has arrived at a decision, then this bench basically refers to the judge or the judges. right? So the bench is linked to the quad. Ah, it's a related word. So when we use bench to refer to the judges or the court, then you would call it metonymy. Or for that matter, when I say the White House, the White House would basically talk about the president of the US. So a related word to refer to something. So that's metonymy. What exactly is pun? What is pun? Who's going to give that to me? Pun is a very commonly used figure of speech. So what is pun? A pun is a joke that is based on either an interplay of homophones. Remember two words that have the same sound? Ah, two words that have the same pronunciation but have different meanings. Or it can be a joke that plays on two words that sound similar but they are not the same. So it may not always be an exact homophone. So the joke or the humor that gets produced is because of the confusion between those two meanings. So, for example, check this out. The tallest building in town is the library because it has thousands of stories. The tallest building in town is the library because it has thousands of stories. So, story actually has two meanings. There are two words. Story is the tale that we share, and story also refers to the floor. There are two words that happen to have the same sound. So that's what it is. Then how about mm, I can't remember which state my wife wanted to visit for her next vacation. I can't remember which state my wife wanted to visit the next vacation. It's okay. I will. In fact, now this may look like Alaska, but if you read it aloud, it'll be it's okay. Alaska. Alaska this can also be interpreted as I will ask her. So these kind of things are puns. And then assonance is when you use two or more words in close proximity that happen to have the same vowel sounds. So that repetition can create some sort of rhythm, mood that can also be used for emphasis. For example, a rolling stone gathers no moss. Rolling stone, moss. So that rolling stone and moss, you notice they have that exact same vowel sound in between. Or how about that famous Dylan Thomas poem? Do not go gentle. Remember? You've heard of that? Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So, in that particular poem, age, rave, day, they're all words with assonance. Another very famous poem is William Blake's Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright. That also uses a lot of eyes to create that rhythm in the poetry. So, tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. So, tiger, tiger, night has that eye. What immortal hand or eye? So, the entire rhythm in that poem comes from the use of assonance. Okay, so that's about poem one. Here is the second poem for you. This is not the entire poem. A part of it is on this slide, a part of it is on the next. Once you're done reading this, let me know and I'll take you over to the next. Done? And I hope you are reading it out aloud. Maybe that's even better, Ayush. It means that you should get, there is a higher probability of you're getting these questions right. Okay, here is the next slide. Okay, so in case you've read it, can I take you over to the questions now? Yeah, My Mother at 66 by Kamla Das. Absolutely, yes. Okay, so what's your answer? It's a heartbreaking poem, actually. Like, come on, come on, come on. What is nostalgia? Nostalgia is when you think of a time gone by, a lovely time, a fabulous memory of your past, and you just want to relive it, but then you cannot go back to the past, go back to the past. So, nostalgia, no. A should be eliminated here itself. Then B says it is filled with trepidation. Okay, what is trepidation? Trepidation is a feeling of fear or anxiety. So B and C can be very close. B says it is filled with, so it is smile. Thus her smile is filled with trepidation. C says her smile hides her fear. D says her smile is filled with hope. B and D are actually contradictory. So let us see what is happening in this particular poem. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze, open mouth. So she was sleeping, right? Open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. So you notice she looked at her mother and she felt that she's as if she were dead. Her body was as old as she looked. She was also in pain. So she just turned her gaze elsewhere because that thought and that view led to something deeply uncomfortable in her mind. But after, so she distracted herself, but then we come back. But after the airport's security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. Which fear is being talked about here? Which fear is being alluded to here? Which fear does a child have? In the context can probably help you. That fear is that of losing your parents, being abandoned and being alone in this world. So the childhood fear is my mom may die. But all I said was see you soon, Amma. All I did was smile and smile and smile. So look at all these ands. This is called polysyndeton. Why are we using these ands? So in the previous paragraph, this was the strategy that she used to keep the thoughts away. Here, this is what she's using to keep that thought away. So she smiled because she did not want her face to reflect the fact that she is afraid of losing her mother, and that smile was just a cover, and that is why it is C and not B and not D. Nostalgia is absolutely out of question. So that's for you. Here is the next one. Very demanding poem, actually. You know, figure of speech in the last line was polysyndeton. This figure of speech is called this particular part. I'll just highlight it. Smile and smile and smile. This is called polysyndeton. Okay, when you repeated where you repeat a particular conjunction multiple times. Okay, the next one. Okay, so let us see what is the meaning of the word one. When you use one to talk about a person's appearance or a person's complexion, then it means the person looks pale and gives the impression of illness, exhaustion, right? So pallid means pale, so that can be our answer. Lucid means clear, so cannot be our answer. Light, nope. What is this fourth word? Gaunt. Gaunt is somebody who is very thin. Somebody who is very thin, especially because of sickness or hunger. So, considering that wan does not really mean thin but means pale, pallid will come close, and therefore you are absolutely spot on in choosing A as your answer. Here is the next one. Which figure of speech is the phrase her face ashen like that of a corpse? Which figure of speech is being used here? Easy one. Hmm. So, answers. Absolutely yes, it is B. It is not a metaphor because in metaphor, when you compare, you do not use words like or as. So B it is. So you know metaphor, you know simile. We talked about assonance in the last one. And then alliteration is when you have two words that happen to have the same consonant sound at the in the beginning. Right. So that's alliteration. Most of your tongue twisters, for example. Here is the next question. अब आयुष ये तो यार मतलब it was a easy miss. Metaphor versus simile is very simple. No, do you have a like or an as though? If yes, in that comparison, then you know it is a simile. Otherwise, you'd call it a metaphor. This should also be an easy one. Absolutely right. See, it is. What is tautology? Tautology is unnecessary repetition. For example, look at this. When we say free gift, come to think of it. Gift is always free, isn't it? Do you pay for a gift? Would you pay for a gift? No. So, what is this free gift business here? So, technically, if you look at it, it should be a tautological error. Okay. Ayush, go to our website here. I've already ensured that we start off the right note, right? Taken you through two poems today itself. Moreover, I've also kind of talked you through a couple of more poems. Tiger, tiger. So we'll do that. And look at BYJU'S exam prep app. We generally put up a lot of topic tests there. Quite a few of them are open for everyone too. So you can perhaps check more of these from there. Otherwise, I'll see. Let me see what I can do. Okay. So that's about today. We are starting our crash course for XAT, where you'd see a session, 15 sessions at 7 p.m. mostly every day, starting from 19th December. So make sure that you do attend that. Additionally, we actually have a badge, dedicated badge for other management entrance tests, the ones other than the CAT. You can consider joining that too. And in case you are writing SNAP, don't forget to join us immediately after your test for a detailed analysis of your particular slot. In if you want to go through just one or two areas thoroughly. For example, figures of speech. You can unlock a 3-day free trial, go through those sessions, and maybe then just spread the good word around, and that will be all. So that's it from me today. I hope such great percentiles for you in every exam that you go on to write. If you liked working with me, don't forget to like this session and do subscribe to the channel. Until I see you next, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Have a great day ahead.